Hi, I'm Steve Richardson, and this is our August 2017 episode of Lunch with a Lawyer. And today we're going to talk about formulating or creating a debt repayment strategy. Now, this isn't just for those of you that have a lot of debt, have problems with debt, where it's really weighing on you. Some of you out there may just have some credit card debt. You're trying to clean up your finances a bit, get a budget, get things under control, and you might have a few $1,000s in credit card debt or some medical bills that you're trying to take care of. So it's not. Don't think that this is just for people that are in financial distress. It is not. It's really for a lot of people. So, why don't we get started? The first thing you got to do, and really in this enterprise, if you don't have one already, make a budget. Okay, I've talked about this a lot on my Financial Freedom podcast, and I believe I've mentioned it in other lunches with a lawyer, that you really have to make a budget and put that together. Most Americans don't have one, so you can be one of the few that do, but it is the first step. You need to know how much money is coming in and how much is going out. People say, hey, I make great money, I make a great salary, but I never seem to have any of it. Well, that's because you're not tracking your spending, and there's a hole in the bucket somewhere and that money's leaking out. So at the very least, creating a budget allows you to find the hole in the bucket and get a control of your finances. And you also need to know how much money is available to pay down your debt. If you're going to come up with a debt repayment strategy, you have to know how much you need. So the budget's going to do that. Hopefully you will have more coming in than going out in regular monthly living expenses, so you have some money left over to do this. So go through your checkbook over the past 12 months, go over all of your credit card statements, and tally up what you're spending in different categories. How much you're spending for food, how much you're spending for gasoline, utilities, clothing, things that vary. I mean, obviously your car payment, your mortgage payment, or your rent payment, those are fixed amounts. But go through and get an average from your credit card statement and your checkbook to get a number, and a good 12-month average. Because things like, for example, I have gas, heat, and electric for everything else, electric air conditioning. So obviously my gas bill in the winter is a lot higher than it is in the summer, and vice versa for electric, with air conditioning in the summer, no air conditioning in the winter. So you want to see how those fluctuate, and you have highs and lows, and you get a good average. You can use a spreadsheet, Excel, if you're a Mac, Apple person, numbers, but some sort of spreadsheet. There are budgeting programs like EveryDollar or QuickBooks allows you to do that. There's an online app called Mint that does that. But use something to put it together that you can use to keep track also going forward, because not only are you creating this budget for now, but you also want to know how you're doing. You made the budget, now you got to track your spending and compare it to the budget. Tweak it as you go along, because your original numbers may be off. As you get more data, your budget can become more accurate. And also with I mentioned EveryDollar just now. I'll leave a link in the notes for this video on where to find the EveryDollar app. And if there's no money left over, if no matter how you look at it, no matter how you see it, there's just not any money left over to pay your debt, to pay down this debt, well, you may need to look into some other solutions. But if you have money left over, okay, we can go on to step two, because you have a pool of money that's available every month that you can use to pay down your debt. The next thing you need to do is gather some information. What is your debt? How much do you have? get a handle on it. Wrap your brain and your hands around what your debt is and what you have to repay. Make a list of creditors and the current balances. So go through the most recent statement that you have. You might, even better than that, go online for each credit card and see what the current running balance is. But the idea is you're getting rid of this debt. So understand that in order for this to work, you can't continue to use the credit cards. This is assuming you don't use them anymore. You're just paying down the balance. So you want to look into that. So assemble all your business and make a list of all your creditors. Now, make a separate list of medical bills. Okay, medical bills work differently and need to be paid differently than credit card debt. Make a separate list and then go out a separate process with them to determine the balances, because you might want to negotiate something with them if you haven't on what to pay. Now, pull all three of your credit reports. That's another thing. You just want to make sure you don't miss anything. Okay, so go through all your bills, all your statements, but go through your credit report as well to make sure you're not missing anything. Then when you go over the reports, be sure to write them down, all of them that are less than 6 years old, because if this is older debt, okay, if you are actually behind, there are different things you need to do depending upon whether this is current debt that you're trying to pay down, where you've been making regular payments but you just want to pay it off and get rid of it, or it may be old delinquent debt that you're trying to clean up. If it's old delinquent debt, look to see how old it is. It may be too old and maybe past the statute of limitations and not something you need to worry about. It's not going to hurt you much longer, and your creditors shouldn't. But to be sure, I would talk to a credit counselor on that issue. You should also list debts that are marked as charged off. There's a common misconception that if a debt is charged off, you don't owe it anymore, and that's not true. Charged off is an accounting term, but you probably still owe it. Okay, so don't keep it off the list if it's marked charged off. All right, so now you've done your budget. We're assuming that you have money left over at the end of the month to make payments, and so you're going to be making some sort of payment going forward, and you know how much you owe. You have a grand total of debt for each creditor. Now you got to talk to each creditor. If it's medical bills, you need to maybe negotiate a balance, figure out what you're paying. And with the credit card bills, reach out to the creditors and say, okay, look, I'm trying to pay off this debt, and I'm not going to be using the card anymore, and I just want to pay off the balance. What would the monthly payment be if I paid the current balance off every month with accumulated interest over a 3-year period of time? And find out what that number is, and write down that number for each of the creditors on your list. All right. If it's a little too high and you're worried about, you might need to go out, but no longer than 5 years. Okay. In doing this, you don't want to be tied up in this for too long. So find out what those monthly payments are and add them up. Okay. Because if you look at it and say, okay, is it affordable? Can you do it? Now that you know what your budget is, the pool of money available, and the balances and everything, and the monthly payments, you need to make a sort of a strategic decision. And there are different ways to go with this. Okay. Some people say, and supposedly backed with studies, that it retrains your brain and sort of reinforces the habit, makes you feel good about it. Start with smaller balances. Okay, you might have small balances that you might be able to pay off in a month or two. Okay, if it's a really small balance, just pay it. Okay, and pay off the smaller ones, and then the monthly payment that you use to pay off the smaller ones then funds a monthly payment into the larger ones. This is what the Every Dollar site and Dave Ramsey calls the debt snowball method, where you're gaining momentum, you're building up, and you're taking you're paying off the smaller amounts, and then the money you use to pay the smaller amounts sort of builds towards monthly payment towards the larger amounts. And it gives you a sense of accomplishment. Is really what the studies are showing, that you say, all right, I can check this creditor off the list. I've paid it off. I've accomplished something. The list is now shorter, and that's good. And it reinforces you and keeps you on track going forward. And understand that if you're current on these cards, you don't want to go into default. If you're current, because default can raise your interest rate. No matter what you do, if you're current, you're going to want to make the minimum payments on all the cards to keep them from going into default or with there being a problem, and that jacks up the interest rate. So be that in mind. So you sort of have this minimum, and really what you're doing is a pay down above that. And make sure in that instance that the amount of money you have left over in your budget, your disposable income, is enough to cover not only the minimum payments, but something more than that. Because you're never going to get anywhere with the minimum payments. But if you don't make the minimum payment, you risk going into default, the interest rate goes up, and it becomes a whole other problem. If you're dealing with older debt, you haven't made a payment in a while, and you're just trying to clean up your act and clean up your finances and your credit, then minimum payments aren't an issue. And you can really just deal with it straight off. Only pay the smaller amounts, only pay certain creditors, and then work you up towards the larger amounts and the larger interest rates, higher interest rates. Because the other approach, other than paying off the smaller ones to reinforce yourself, reward yourself, and keep yourself on track, the other approach is pay down the higher interest rate balances first. Obviously, this has the advantage of, over time, if you pay them first and the other ones are sort of waiting, they're not accruing as much interest, and the balance isn't going up as much while you're dealing with the larger balances. So a lot of times I say start with the highest interest rates first. So you should note on your list the balances and the interest rates as well when you're talking to the credit card companies and getting those numbers. The third is which is really the simplest way, if you can afford it, is just add up all of those payments. So for example, everybody told you what it would cost to pay off the balance in 3 years and in 5 years, or you can go 3, 4, and 5, if you want to grade it out and look at different numbers. And then total those up, and if they're affordable, if you can afford to pay all of your creditors, make a payment to each one every month, and you can afford that monthly payment that amortizes over that period of time, 3, 4, 5 years, then do that. You make a payment to each one of them every month. Then at the end of that period of time, all of your debts are paid off. And remember, this is helping your credit because according to the myfico.com website, your FICO scores, 35% of those are weighted towards payment history. Okay? So the better you're establishing a good payment history as you're making these payments, as you're paying it off, and that helps with your credit. So that's really a good approach. So if that's affordable and you can do that, then great. And you're able to get your debt in line. And hopefully, now that you have a budget and you know money in, money out, you should be able to pay off your credit cards every month. So, and you can kind of do that or use the credit cards while you're making the payments because if you use the card, you can pay off all the charges you made during that billing period plus that regular monthly payment that you've calculated. So you can use the card during the payoff period, but you need to pay off in full what you charge every month so that balance doesn't go up. Okay, and this can help discipline you later towards paying off the balance. So you've got the back debt paid off. You're at zero at this point. You've got your budget. You know there's more money, hopefully, more money coming in than going out. And you have some money left over. So you know, and you've been budgeting and monitoring the budget and tweaking it over this period of time. So you know it's pretty solid numbers. That you know that you can put something on the charge card and pay it off every month, and really better off doing that. Now, what paying off your credit card every month does for your credit, there's been some discussion on my website. I had posted a while back a video that was based on a conversation I had had with a mortgage broker on credit issues. And it was his experience that credit scores tended to be lower if you paid off your credit cards every month, because technically it wasn't debt. They weren't lending you the money because you paid off every month. And it wasn't necessarily a payment history because it wasn't regular payments on a balance. You just paid it off every month. So the lion's share of your FICO score, your debt load, and your payment history were almost kind of non-existent looking at it that way. I have talked to other credit counselors and people that know credit and how it works, and they've disagreed with this position that it doesn't hurt you. So, bear that with a grain of salt. And really, no matter what it does for your credit, you're in better financial shape anyway if you pay off the balances every month. Okay, credit scores aside, you're just in better shape because you know you're living within your means, you're able to pay your bills, you're not paying more for things that you purchase with the card because you're not paying interest to finance it over time, and you're really better off. So no matter what it does to your score, no matter who's right on whether paying off the balances every month hurt your credit or not, or it doesn't allow for a higher score or not, you're really better off financially anyway. So that's it for this month's Lunch with a Lawyer. Sorry about the lighting. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'll have to look into that for next month's episode to see what the problem is. Hey Norm, how you doing? Good to see you joined. You and I were talking last night. Just came in. Unfortunately, Norm, you're coming in towards the tail end of the show. I just finished talking about everything. You can catch it on the replay. And I'm also going to be putting this out onto my YouTube channel at richardsonlawoffices.tv. And maybe I'll be able to clean up some of the lighting in a video editor. I'm not sure. But it'll be available for replay on Facebook at facebook.com/Richardson Law Offices. If you like this video, please like it or love it or react in some way to it. And looking good. Thanks, Glenn. Norm, thank you. Hit that like button or love button, and if you found it informative, share it. Okay, hit the share button. Share it on your Facebook timeline, on your page, so that other people can see it and maybe get something out of it. And even better, like my Facebook page. As I said, facebook.com/Richardson Law Offices. You'll get notifications of events like this. I do Lunch with a Lawyer every month, usually on the second Tuesday at 12:30, so that you can watch it on your phone or your tablet while you're eating lunch and get something out of it. So I hope to do it more often as time goes on. Maybe if I have more topics to talk about that are more general legal interest, I will. But like I said, like, love, share the video, like the page. And if you are watching it on my YouTube channel, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the YouTube content, please think about subscribing to the channel so you get notifications of new content. That's it for August. I'll see you after Labor Day in September, when we'll have a whole new topic on Lunch with a Lawyer. So until then, talk to you later.